Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today I'm out camping, and I was thinking on my way here about the overland tax, and whether it's real, which I think it is, and where it applies the most. Like, what are the spots where they really get us with the overland tax? So today in this episode of the podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the overland tax is, why it's a real thing, and the areas where they get us the most with it. I'm going to try and talk about some real world useful information and tips that will help save you money and identify when something's just cool and expensive because it says overlanding and when it's actually like a useful piece of gear that's worth the money. So if you want to hear more about the overlanding tax and where it hits the most, stay tuned.
Sandstorm, I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, guys, so as I mentioned in the intro, today I'm talking about the overland tax. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, I'm walking around my truck. I'm going to kind of show you some things that I think are great examples of the overland tax. But I'm going to describe everything I talk about too. So even if you're just listening on the podcast on your way to work or something, you'll totally know what's going on as well. So first and foremost, the biggest thing that you can probably see if you're watching is there is definitely an overland tax on rooftop tents, on canopy campers, on smart caps, on caps for trucks, right? There are all these brands that are, in a lot of cases, sourcing them from China anyways, and then just relabeling them or white labeling them and reselling them. Now, there are some that are made in the US, and of course, always I would prefer to buy US if I can, but unfortunately, the pricing of them, because of the cost of labor and manufacturing and everything, is just really prohibitive. So, I recently got this Alibaba camper from a company called Hyperlion. Out the door, including taxes and everything, it was about $5,000, which was about what I had into my bed rack and rooftop tent before, plus my drawer system. So to be able to swap to something like this, that's a hard-walled camper with, 9 foot long by 5 foot across footprint. It goes straight up and down with 4 gas struts. So you've got tons of space in there for, the cost of basically a rooftop tent and a bed rack is just unbelievable and never even occurred to me before because of the overland tax. Because for a camper, you just always were assuming you're talking $8-10 grand minimum, sometimes up to like $15, $20, $25,000. I've seen some of these things. So there's just not a lot of budget options. I don't want to be flippant in saying that this is just all overland tax and they're just gouging us. I know that a lot of these American companies do have higher costs of labor. They do have higher costs of materials. They have to, invest in the things that they need to manufacture them. But unfortunately, it's like one of those catch-22s where it's like overlanding is getting popular. So companies are popping up that want to do these things and make them. But since their costs are so high, it's almost unattainable, I think, for a lot of us, right? Like to have a truck, I bought this truck brand new 3 years ago. It was about 47 to 50 grand. To spend almost half that on a camper that's way too cost prohibitive for me. That doesn't make sense. I bought a Nissan because it was inexpensive, but still reliable. I want a reliable, inexpensive camper that is not $20,000. So not maybe technically part of the overland tax, but in a way sort of the overland tax because the space is blowing up. And in order to make products, it costs a lot of money to do here in the States. So definitely campers are one of those things. Now, here's the thing is, though, if you're talking about a company that is just buying these exact things, these Alibaba campers, and buying them in bulk and then white labeling them or relabeling them, then that is the overland tax, right? That's just people gouging. That's people going, hey, I can buy these for $3 grand a piece and sell them for 8 or 10. I'm going to make money off these dumb overlanders because they'll pay me to do so. Another place that I think the overlanding tax definitely applies is shovels, right? We've all seen the Crazy Beaver. I think it's a great shovel. I've never used it, but I'm sure it's a very fantastically, quality shovel, well made and everything, but they are just prohibitively expensive. I bought this little Astro AI folding shovel. This can actually collapse for about $35. Now, this thing isn't going to be, you're not going to be digging through tree roots and stuff like that. So you could also argue that this is a slightly different use case. But for me, I mostly use this to move ashes out of fire pits, and I use it to move like sand if you get something, stuck between your tires, or snow a lot because I go camping in the winter. So for me, spending $35 on a shovel to have an option to potentially use to move some dirt and stuff, when I've been doing this for, 10 years and I've basically never used it except to move some snow to like make a spot for a chair or to move ashes out of a fire pit. I've never never had the need to use a shovel. Now, if you are constantly getting yourself stuck, if you're in, really rocky, thick terrain and you feel like you need a shovel, then that may be a place to spend the money. I'm not saying never spend money on gear. I'm just saying you're going to spend multiples of what you can get a shovel like that for in that space. And that's been kind of like a theme, right? Kind of like a running trope or joke about overlanding is just that, like that, the Crazy Beaver shovel's $150. You can go down to Menards or Lowe's and buy one for 20 or 30 bucks, or buy a Fisker shovel, right? For a very small amount of money that will work 90% as well. So definitely the shovel space, I feel like, is a place where they get you. Another one is definitely with refrigerators, portable refrigerators, right? I've had a lot of them. I've had the Icecos, the Travacas. They're all very, very nice fridges. I like all of them. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I've also had Set Powers. I've had Bouge RVs. I've had Alpacools, and those things are a fraction of the price. I've never had any problems with them. I've never had any failures from any of them. So I am actually getting ready to outfit and build out the inside of my new camper here. And after all those fancy fridges that I have, I'm just going to go with the Set Power because this thing's like $160. So if it ever dies, if I get 3, 4, 5 years out of it and then it dies, that's still a good value versus spending, $600 to $1,000 or more on a fridge. So for me, that's a place to save some money. Get one of the, the Set Powers or the Bouge RV. Those are both some really value priced fridge manufacturers that actually make pretty decent stuff. And so that's why I'm going to run that in my truck, is because, this channel is all about budget-minded overlanding. Like, I don't want to make recommendations to you guys that are going to cost you an arm and a leg and then prevent you from getting other stuff that you might want. Just the savings between this and a more name brand fridge and that shovel would get you $1,000 towards a camper. Now, another place that they kind of get you with the overlanding tax, I feel like, is sleeping stuff. Now, one company that I want to call out that you can see their mattress up there is Hest. That is one where their stuff is very expensive. However, I have not come across any products that are any better than them for a fraction of the price. All the other alternatives, the air mattresses, everything else, are not nearly as comfortable as my Hest stuff. You don't have to air that up. It's just a memory foam mattress, so it's really, really easy to throw out and use. But in the sleep space, Hest is one of those where I would recommend spending the money. Now, on sleeping bags, there are a ton of options. There are sleeping bags that are $400, $600, $800. I've kind of had some of those, and they are amazing sleeping bags. If you need ultra light, super small footprint, and you're really looking for that, then it may be worth spending that money. But right now, I'm running this White Duck sleeping bag. It's about a $200 sleeping bag. I had a Coleman before that was about $80, and the Coleman was junk. I mean, I went through 2 of them. The zippers broke on all of them. They were just junky. This thing I've had for a while now. It's one of the most comfortable, thick sleeping bags that I've had. You can just lay on top of it if it's summertime, and it's almost like an extra padding on the mattress to make things more comfortable. And it's, again, $200, and you get this really good, this is a 0 degree bag too, by the way, 0 degree comfort level bag. So sleeping stuff they can definitely get you with too. So just beware of that. Now, another place where they get you, and this may make some people mad, and if so, I apologize, but this is just my opinion, is on vehicles, right? Vehicles, one of the biggest expenses that we have for overlanding. A couple points here. One, everybody feels like they have to go out and buy a truck or buy an SUV or buy a Lexus GX 460 or whatever to overland. You don't. You can go overlanding in just about anything. Now, obviously, when you start to think about capability and you want 4-wheel drive and you want to be able to get to those further places, that's when you start to talk about, reliability. You talk about longevity. You talk about capability. You talk about modifications and aftermarket support and all that good stuff. But I've seen so many people in like a stock Subaru or a slightly lifted Subaru on slightly bigger tires out at a place in Wyoming that we were like, how did that guy drive out here? And they just drive right out. Right. So like that is another place where they definitely get you, is you watch all these videos online and you hear all the time how you need to go spend tens of thousands of dollars and buy a top of the line Toyota Land Cruiser or that Tacoma Trail Hunter or whatever. And it's not true. Right. I went with the Nissan, and this is where I'm going to say something that may make some of you mad. I like Toyota trucks. I think they're perfectly fine. I just don't want to pay, $6 to $10,000 more for a truck that's very similar. And in my opinion, especially with the new gens, I just feel like long term, the Turbo 4 is not going to be as reliable as this good old naturally aspirated 6-cylinder that Nissan's been making for 7-8 years now, on a platform that it was basically designed 20 years ago with some refreshments and some new technology packed into it. For me, this is a value deal. You can find 22 and 23 2022 and 23 models for, 20 to 30 grand with low mileage. I bought mine brand new, like I said, for about 50 grand, but I had no miles on it, no history. That I had a few used vehicles that had some problems due to previous owners. And so that was why I was like, I'm just going to buy a new one and I'm just going to keep it for like 10 or 12 years. So I've had this thing for over 3 years now. I've got 35,000 miles on it. I've taken it to Wyoming. I've taken it to West Virginia, to Virginia for Expo East, up to the Upper Peninsula, down to Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, to Tennessee, all over the US. Most of those miles are from trips. And this thing's just bulletproof. It just runs. And I modified it and changed it. Now my aftermarket support isn't the best on this. So that's where the Toyota kind of has the Nissan beat, is a lot more aftermarket support. Same with Jeep. But I just personally think that the Nissan is just a great budget option where you get a lot of the same sort of features, a lot of the same capability, and a lot of the same reliability for a fraction of the price. So for me, that's kind of where the Overland Tax gets you. And I think even you Toyota guys and girls may agree with me too, that like there is definitely an Overlanding Tax or a Toyota tax on Toyotas, right? Like people will pay tens of thousands of dollars more or thousands of dollars more for a comparable Tacoma than they will for a Frontier. In my opinion, that just helps me out, right? It doesn't help me out on resale value, but I'm going to keep this thing forever. But because I bought used vehicles, all those used vehicles I got for a steal of a deal, and they were fantastic. And I drove them both for like 4 or 5 years, put tens of thousands of miles on them, and at a fraction of the price of a 4Runner or a Tacoma. So again, for me, like, just don't think too much about the brand. Like, you don't have to go buy a Toyota. You don't have to buy a Jeep. Jeeps are expensive too. They're not very reliable historically, but they're really loved in the overlanding and off-roading space because of their solid axles and their capability. But I've had so many friends just have nightmare experiences with them where they have, serious reliability issues. They have transmission issues. They have batteries dying because of the dual battery design. They're blowing motors and stuff in the middle of nowhere. They've got giant oil leaks under their Jeeps that come out of nowhere. Like, it's just... For me, they're not very reliable, but they are very capable. And again, they're very expensive. So that is definitely some place where they get you with the Overland taxes on vehicles. All right, guys, so that will do it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, there will be links in the description down below to join the conversation on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you want to come hang out. If you have questions or comments, if you're on Spotify or the YouTube channel, you can post those down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Overlanding Tax below. But if you're just listening on the podcast, that's cool too. Just join up on Facebook or Instagram and join the conversation over there. Another place where you can join the conversation, though, is Newbie Overlanders, which is a free group that I started on Facebook for people to ask questions, for people to learn about overlanding. And every week we do, once a week, a social media share where you can share videos you've made, and I will share one of mine. But then the main feed is really clean and clear so that you can ask questions, you can help people, more about helping others and not just posting your own stuff. So if that sounds good, check out Newbie Overlanders. Also, if you're on YouTube, there will be a join button down below, which is a passive way to support the channel and get you early access to the podcast, to all the videos that I do. So tons of value there if you are into all things overlanding. But no matter where you're listening or watching, if you want to join my Patreon, there are a ton of awesome guys in there. We do a 24/7 Discord where we all kind of chat, share memes, ask questions, talk about gear. We do buy-sell stuff in there. So if you are looking to sell stuff or buy stuff, that may be a good place. We do a once-a-month Zoom call, and we're getting together for in-person trips a couple times a year as well. So if you want a community of people, like-minded people that are into overlanding, the Patreon is a great place to be, and we'd love to have you over there as well. Also in the description will be a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding camping themed patches and stickers, things like "Don't burn your wiener and it's a hot dog," or "F people, let's go overlanding." There's a jerry can that says "Weekend Warrior" on it. There's all kinds of different designs for both patches and stickers. So if you want to decorate your rig or your headliner, definitely check those out. But that will do it for this episode of the podcast. I really appreciate you guys watching and listening. Make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube, add it to your favorites if you are listening to the podcast, and leave a 5-star review if you don't mind. That helps a ton and tells other people that it's a good podcast. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.